Ray, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right, yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world.
Speech and freedom.
Try to take over the world.
And greatest chaplain in the world, Mr.
Try
Lance
to
O'Neill.
take over the world.
Yo, what up, world? We are here on another Sunday night, 8:30 East. And I specify that because your boy is so far away from the East right now. So greetings and a big mohalu from Honolulu, Hawaii. For your POG, I'm chilling on vacation. And I get to hang out with my best buddy on a Sunday, man. You can't ask for nothing better. What's up, Chappie? How you doing?
Hey, it's all good. I got a couple of dogs back on the bed wrestling, it looks like. So if you see some weird furballs going on behind me, that's what's going on. So I just noticed that.
My background today, I just got in and got everything settled. Time is really messing with me right now. But hey, man, I was able to catch up on some news. Apparently, while we were traveling, some things happened. Let's dive into it, man, because it's on everybody's mind. POTUS decided that 2 weeks. I don't think POTUS can count because every time he says I give you 2 weeks, it's always extremely before or after the 2 week mark. It's just kind of like he reminds me of the Magic Man. You know what I'm saying? Like,
look over there.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. He hitting them with a rope-a-dope. So my favorite plane, by the way, is the B-2 bomber. An absolute beast of a plane. If you've never seen it, it is an absolute engineering marvel, probably one of the best in the world. I don't think it's been beaten yet in terms of advanced technology. So POTUS decided to send a couple of B-2s from Louisiana, 6, I believe, in total, to go reach out and touch our friends in Iran. Now, there's been a lot of debate from what I can see and catching up on it on both sides of the aisle. Some people are saying, hey, kudos to POTUS for being preemptive. Iran absolutely cannot have nuclear weapons, this, that, and the other. And I understand that. I do. Truly, I do. You know, having a targeting background and understanding and doing that for quite a while, I understand the existential threat that a nuclear Iran could pose, not only to us with their hypersonic capabilities, but also to neighbors in the region. However, they bring up a very valid point about this administration and their just willingness and I guess abundance of taking the initiative. They, like I said a couple of weeks ago, this administration has the tendency to ask for forgiveness and not permission. They've kind of taken that stance in terms of leadership. And that has become more and more problematic. And I had to go back and look, and I cannot believe we're only 6 months into this president's term. It feels like he's been there 3 years. But yeah, so what are your thoughts? I'm gonna get everything set up on my end, and then I'm gonna let you cook for a little bit, and we can kind of talk back and forth.
Well, let's do a trivia question. When was the last time the United States Congress actually issued a vote to go to war?
WWII.
And what year, do you know?
What was it? It was 30, I want to say 38 or 39, I believe.
After Pearl Harbor was bombed. 1942.
It was 42? Dang, we took that. Oh, yeah, we did. We took the long way into the war. That's right.
We sat it out for a while there. Yeah. So the one thing from the Democrats I keep saying, and even from a couple of Republicans, I think Senator Massey was like, well, this is unconstitutional because he didn't go through Congress and ask for a declaration of war. And I thought, Korea, Bay of Pigs, Vietnam, Panama, Grenada, let's see, Nicaragua, first Gulf War, second Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Syria. This is not a new thing, guys. It's unconstitutional. No, there's something that I guess there's there's a security act that basically gives the president, as long as he says, hey, we're doing this truly for national security and national safety, we can do this. It's AUMA or something like that. Anyway, but basically, like, not only did Trump do the beach, I thought it was out of Missouri. It could have been Louisiana. I don't remember which. But here's the other part: is they made this big deal about sending some B-2s headed east, right? So going over the Pacific. Meanwhile, they timed it that the real bombers were going west,
right,
or vice versa. So it was also a rope and dope there. Like, if anybody's watching and able to see what's going on, they're going to think one thing and it's actually another. So I don't really, I think Trump has always been pretty consistent about not being consistent. And what I mean,
I agree.
Right. 2016, he's like, they asked him, well, what would you do if? He's like, I'm not going to tell you. That's stupid. Like, why would I tell you what we're going to do? That's militarily. Well, why would I say that? Now, that's not to say that he hasn't said some things that, I guess, give the opposing party a way to kind of critique him. Like, hey, when I get in, I'm going to stop the Ukraine war on day one. I mean, that stuff like that. It's hubris and it's silly. But
he did say that he was going to be the he did say he was going to be the anti-war president, and
and so
he's looking real Obama-ish when it comes to his anti-war policies. I'm just, I call it a buck.
Sure. And that's, well, like, again, as a conservative and a Republican back in the day, when Obama went and bombed the bad guys, I was like, good, go bomb the bad guys. I don't see a problem with that. Like, if you're saying I'm going to go kill this guy because he's a terrorist and he's set up, like, look, I was in Guantanamo when they brought in Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, right? He's there.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't personally have had a problem, honestly, if they'd given me a 9mm and said, hey, go terminate with extreme prejudice. And I think most of us would have probably been okay with that, because this was the dude who set up 9/11. And I would have looked at it and go, yeah, this is just this. If you want to make me the executioner, cool. I would have been fine with that. So the fact that we went in, my thought on this was, when I saw that it happened, was we need to then not do this with half measures. And I'm not saying go in and put 20,000 Marines on the ground in Tripoli, or Tehran. Tripoli is probably not going to do a lot of good in this case.
Tripoli's like, what do we do?
What do we do? Wait, you came here once. Stop it. In Tehran. But I do think there's some real value in dropping some pretty significant armaments on these sites. I mean, personally, I don't know what our nuclear arsenal is, and it to me, it's a bit strange that you wouldn't have single warhead, kind of what you would call mini nuke. You remember during, what was that movie? Starship Troopers, where they carried around and they had the one little hand. It was a handheld nuclear device. Oh, he knows what it is. Oh, he's smart. See, this bug's smart. Beep, 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 beep. He knows what it is. If you could put and people might say, well, Chaplain, you're being, aggressive or, war, pro-war or whatever. I do. I've always been a hawk in the right circumstances. And because I'm a believer that the opposite of war is not peace, the opposite of war is strength. And so if it had turned out that they dropped a couple of these bunker busters in and followed it up with a nice single warhead that was a 50 kiloton that turned some of those facilities into glass in the mountains, I personally would have been okay with that. If you're going to do it right. And now we're getting reports. Well, now, again, a lot of this has to do with who knows what's actually right, because the Iranians, I read something that the Iranians are kind of going, hey, we already moved all the material. So then the question is, I don't think they would have moved the material, honestly, without the U.S. knowing it because of our satellite capabilities.
I think we're getting caught up in OIF 2.0, right?
3.0.
Well, yeah, 3.0. Well, the first one out. So wait, the first one was a legit beef, right? Saddam went into Kuwait and just was not stopped. So
the first Gulf War, absolutely.
The second Gulf War, completely fabricated, and was just based off an all right. They had weapons of mass destruction, but not to the level that the U.S. government was letting on to.
I'm gonna let you finish that, but then I want to give an analogy about that.
Yeah, that's fine. So, with this Iran issue, Iran has been. I mean, you've seen the news pundits go on about Netanyahu and the U.S. and the rhetoric. Iran has been weeks to having a nuclear program for the last 35 years. I can count all the way back to freaking what? Yeah, we can go all the way back to the early 2000s about Iran's potential nuclear threat being within weeks of coming to fruition, right? So, a lot of it's just a bunch of rhetoric, man. There's a I am genuinely torn in this whole situation, right? Because the targeteer in me sees the execution that, and I don't give Pete Hegseth much credit at all. But I will tell him the execution of the B2 mission was perfection. The feint mission had everybody looking left when he went right, sending the B2s. The B2s had went and bombed them and were out of airspace before even any reports came out. As a tactician, as a targeteer, that is perfection on the highest level. That is what you want. My concern or my issue is, what is the next, right? What's the next idea? Because we did the same thing in OIF 2, where we started. Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. We're going to shock and arm. We're going to go in. We're going to bomb them, right? But what we didn't have a plan for was what happens after that. And then have a plan to we ran into the issue of the Civil War, and then we had to establish fake elections, and then a 6-month campaign turned out to be a 20-year campaign simply because we just could not figure out which way forward. So I don't want to repeat that. If they have a clear and strategic plan to say, all right, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and I'm okay with being the bad guy. Somebody is the bad guy in every war, right? Somebody is the bad guy in every war. And if this is the one all to be all, I'm okay with that. I don't like the fact that we're Israel's puppet masters again, but that's a whole nother podcast for a whole different story. But if we're going to get involved, if we're going to send in the B2s and then the B2s, the problem I have is the B2s they're not designed for just play, right? You only bring the B2s out when you mean serious business, right? You want to bust something up and you want to bust it bad and you want to soften it up so we can come in and finish it out.
Or fly it over the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sure. Yeah. I mean, we're at that point, but yeah. But the B2s are meant for destruction, right? We are coming in and, we're coming in and we're letting you know when we bring the B2s out, we generally mean business. What I don't want to have is, okay, boom, we hit you with the B2s. That's the best we got. Now I hope you learned your lesson, right? And that's ultimately my biggest concern as a targeteer. Like, what's next? What is the next plan?
Well, so you've got we've hit him hard, we've punched him in the face, we've knocked him down, and so now the question is, do you go with the Ender Wiggin strategy, which is we just won this fight, but now do we kick him in the head while everybody's watching so it wins all the future fights? Like, do we want to injure Iran's nuclear program, or do we want to kill Iran's nuclear program? And I agree with you. Right now, it seems like, unfortunately, we might be pausing and not killing it. which at that now, and I get it. If the analysts are saying right now, look, these strikes will delay will set the nuclear program back 2 to 3 years, 2 to 5 years. Okay. Then we're doing, unfortunately, what we've done in the government. Everything else, let's just kick it down the can down the road. And that where, to me, like, I really, really hope the Iranian people take the hint and go, this is our time. Hey, this has not been a great world situation for us since the whenever. I mean, it changed over the late 70s to a theocracy. And I'm sure since then you had a lot of people still not happy about it, living in a country that has been very similar, I think, delayed growth, et cetera, something like Cuba. The difference is Iran has all the oil and should be doing very, very well. If I'm an Iranian and I know what has happened in Saudi and Qatar and some of these other countries, going, wait a minute, I still drive a 1960 Hilux that I have a hard time getting gas for because Iran doesn't have any refineries. All they have oil, but they don't have refineries. They have to ship it out and bring it back in. Maybe it's the time. Now it's the time to take to the streets. And because all these bombings by Israel have decapitated the military leadership, maybe now is the time to do something about it. I think my favorite video of this whole thing so far has been the female news broadcaster that has the hijab on, and she's, Iran will never back down. We will not. Boom. And she goes, and she's like, I'm out.
Listen, we opened up a serious can of worms, right? Regardless of where you are, right? What you've done is you got the Ayatollah meeting with Putin right now.
Won't go anywhere. Well, here's why I say that. Russia's already been bled dry. And Russia, in my opinion, the only reason that there's any weapons that are getting through from Iran into Israel is because Putin already said, hey, here's some hypersonic stuff that we've been working on. This is what we can give you. So they're already about none of it's new.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, so I need to be very clear about the capabilities of those hypersonics, right? Yeah. Those hypersonics we cannot shoot down. Mm-mm. We can't. We don't have the ability yet to shoot it down. We've been working on it. We just haven't quite been able to catch it yet. Hell, even trying to track those bad boys gave us problems. If they were to get their hands on a fresh batch and try to target anything in the U.S., I don't know. Because of the distance, we may stand a fighting chance at it. But I don't want to put the citizens, our American citizens, at risk for no reason. Are you worried
about Iranian? And I'm going to say who launched it. Are you worried about Iranian hypersonic, or are you worried about Russian hypersonic?
Well, I mean, either way, it's like
no. There's very significant difference. Why?
I mean, obviously from distance wise, yeah, there's difference. But I mean,
yeah. Well, that's why I asked, because I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about Iranian supersonics hitting New York or DC. But I would be worried about Russian. I think Russian capabilities are very different.
Which could easily strike us from Russia's western front and our eastern. Well, from their eastern front and our western front, they could very easily send hypersonics and tag.
Well, I mean, and we're in summertime, so if you depending on what the launch sites are capable of, if you take them north, you basically launch them over the North Pole, and that's how you hit New York. I think though. So here's the difference when they're talking about World War III, in my opinion. Nobody's backing Iran. And I don't really think Russia is kind of go, I don't know how much.
Nobody's backing Iran publicly.
I don't think who's backing, who in the neighborhood is friends with Iran that wants to piss off America. There's only one other country. That's Iraq. And Iraq's basically at this point kind of Iran Junior, but they don't have any capabilities.
You got a couple. I mean, you got Pakistan. The biggest threat isn't necessarily formalized forces when it comes to Iran. It's the guerrilla style forces. And we've shown time and time again, we have a difficult time controlling unconventional warfare.
So that's a great point. What unconventional warfare are you thinking of right now?
Well, I mean, the infiltration's already here. I mean,
yeah,
from Russian assets to Chinese assets to Iranian assets. Like there are cells in every city, I would dare say, in America. So
yes,
that would be my biggest concern and my biggest threat. Not necessarily I don't see them landing troops on the shore. No,
I'm with you.
Or conventional. Like I said, but I think an unconventional war would be extremely devastating. I mean, our
it could be for sure.
Is,
and that's. But here's the thing that people, I don't think really think about that, and they go, "Hey, you and me understand this," but I think the average citizen, especially when Iran comes out and says, "We're gonna have our cells in America cause havoc," and you have all these people going, "Oh my gosh, Iran has cells here. Look what they've done." It's like, you idiots! They've had these cells here for years. Iran is not. People don't understand how Middle Easterners think. Middle Easterners don't think in terms of days and weeks and months or even years. They think in terms of decades and centuries. Okay? So when we sit here, we go, yeah, we just wiped them all out. It's over. No, I mean, it would not surprise me if over the coming couple years, that you have some pretty even if Iran fails, the state fails, and there is a changeover, and it becomes a more, I was going to say democratic, but I think it would go back to a monarchy. I think that's what the thought is. The son of the Shah, whoever the U.S., whoever it is. If it is overthrown by the people, I don't think it'll be a theocracy. I think it will be a monocracy or a monocracy. No, I do think it would be a monarchy. Well, no, what I mean by the people rising up is an Arab Spring type situation, like what happened in Egypt and what happened in Libya.
I got three letters that'll tell you. Yeah, 3
letters.
IRA? No, CIA.
Oh. No, I don't know.
People uprising.
Yeah, but the world has changed so much. I think you're at a part, especially with Trump being in. If you were to try to covertly put, let's say, I don't want to say a U.S. puppet in state, but if you were trying to put somebody in that is a U.S. puppet, I think you have enough people that oppose Trump that you'd have a lot of whistleblowing going on, and you'd have some serious freakouts in a way that you didn't really have in the 60s and 70s. So maybe I'm wrong. I very well could be wrong. No, we'll see. Yeah, but I'm hopeful.
We have the ability. I mean, we literally wrote the book on switching out people for political influence.
Right. No, I get that. Yeah, I just don't think we're in a position. I don't think we're in a clear, because of the information age and because of I'm not even sure what to say, because on one side, I want to say we have whistleblower protections and we have, the separate offices that are supposed to be doing the watchdog stuff and all that stuff. And I know you're about to say they all got shut down.
Not anymore. We had those. We don't have those.
The GAO and those still exist, but it's so much easier.
They function out.
It's so much easier to go to it's so much easier to go to the people at this point, though. Like if you were going to say, like, even from 10 years ago, you had what was it? What was his name? The guy that stole all the stuff and the documents and gave it to WikiLeaks and Assange. Snowden. Even the difference between Snowden 10 years ago and Snowden today, the ease of being able to get that information out is just vastly night and day difference. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I'm curious what, like you said, what's the follow-up going to be? Is it going to be, look, we just basically kicked you right in the groin. So are you going to keep fighting, or like, are you going to shape up? And
so
I mean, I don't think they will.
Tehran did shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which was anticipated. That was kind of like, all right, that was the.
Can I ask you something on that?
What's that?
How do you shut down the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, I mean, they put a blockade on it. So
yeah. So how do you do that?
Well, traditionally you'd send your Navy out and just secure entry and exit points.
Right. So how do you break that blockade?
Unless if you break that blockade, you are literally walking. You might as well declare war at that point.
If you say keeping the Straits of Hormuz open is a national strategic imperative, again, you don't need to go to Congress at that point. You've got the United States, and think about everybody at that point. Everybody loves their oil.
I'm all about stretches, but that's an astronomical stretch. You would have to convince, if you convince NATO to do it, you'd have an easier fight because it is an.
That's what I'm saying, though. That's what I'm saying. Everybody loves their oil.
If the United States did it independently of NATO, then we would have serious issues.
I think NATO would turn around and say, "Hey, yeah, we back that action. We don't have the ships, so we appreciate that you guys are going to do this. So we're going to throw a little bit of here and there. We're going to throw this one British battleship will come down, and this one German submarine will come in, but for the most part, Sweden will send their three mine layers and whatever, but for the most part, anything as far as military is going to be super heavy lifting is going to be the U.S.
We're like 90% NATO, and then everybody kind of chips in. The issue I'm concerned about though is, again, it's going to be those strikes. Like, we are super vulnerable in the Middle East. I mean, those guys out there in Kuwait and Doha and Qatar, they're chilling. They're not combat ready. They're just not. We are not combat ready as a nation.
No.
We have faced some serious deterioration from the OIF generation to now, which happened. I don't want to be old man here. Let me clarify.
Self-inflicted.
Yeah, I don't want to be the old man in the room. Let me clarify. After every major conflict, there is some deterioration of forces, right? We saw that after Vietnam. We saw that after OIF 1. And every generation afterwards, even though taking some lumps in the initial conflict, we were able to ramp up pretty quickly and get to where we need to be. The issue, I think, we'll be forced with now, and I pray earnestly that we don't have to go troop for troop, because we are not prepared for that kind of war. We're not prepared economically, nor do we have the force posture to do that right now. But it just, we're in a phase of transition and getting our numbers back, and we're just not in a position for that. So if we keep it at bombing and we keep it strategic, we're great. I don't know. I mean, Iran doesn't really have a lot of plays left. They've already shut down the Strait, which was the logical next step. They don't want to bomb U.S. interests directly, because if they do,
they want to save face.
Yeah. If they do, then it's gloves off, right? One American life equals we're sending the whole goddamn force of Uncle Sam after you, and God rest your soul. So they're in a rough position, man.
Yeah. Wasn't it during Trump's first one that Iran launched those missiles into Iraq and really messed up some of the kids that were in Iraq
and accidentally hit a base. Yeah.
So Was that Biden or was that Trump?
No, I think that was POTUS one. That was 47. No, 40. What is it? 45.
It's either 45 or 46. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was 45.
So I think that, there's this idea of, you start off with saying there's criticism from the right on one thing and criticism on the left. But here's what I've really been seeing online that was really surprising. You'd be surprised how many people in MAGA world are really not happy with the strike in Iran, because they're saying, I voted for border security, for lower taxes, and no wars. Now, that said, you also have people, I'm going to call them out, and if they ever want to come back and have either of us on to discuss this, but the Hodge twins, I think, was pretty funny, because on X, they came out and said, we don't want no wars. We didn't want no wars. But then on Facebook, they were like, oh, yeah, our president went out and just wiped out Iran. Yeah, that's what he did. Now, it was written, so I'm messing around, because if you've ever watched the Hodge twins, that's my very poor impression of them. But that's
entertainment, man.
For sure.
It's just,
and so, I do see that there are quite a few MAGA that are really, really kind of ticked off. Now, you have those like Laura Loomer, who basically say Trump is the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-great, all-Oz, the real Wizard of Oz.
These are the same women who believe in Jewish lasers. So,
well, what I'm saying is there are those who think that Trump can do no wrong. And if Trump says it, that is just how it is. And it's absolutely right, no matter what. Right. Yeah. And then you have a group of MAGA that are saying, hey, you know what? We agreed with Trump and we voted. And a big part of why we were voting for him was no wars. Now, for me, I've always found, I saw one, and I thought Andrew Wilson, who I debated on Friday, I thought he had a great point of this. He responded to this one person who said, that's it. Because of Trump and what he's done, I'm a conservative, but I am absolutely going to vote straight Democratic ticket just to show how unhappy I am with what Trump has been doing. Andrew's line was, great way to warm up your hands by burning your feet. I thought that was a great line. Like, I'm a conservative. I'm not voting for somebody. Like, if you think Kamala Harris would have done a better job, fine, so be it. But if there's certain things, like, you can't think Kamala Harris would have done a better job on closing the border, because she wasn't going to close the border, and that's not again. She wouldn't have. There's just certain policies that the Democrats, that it's like saying, I don't know, if you thought, Harris was going to do a better job on cutting down on abortions in America, probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
Right. And so like with this, honestly, and you can say, well, I don't think Harris would have been quite the hawk with Israel that Trump has been. However, I will tell you right now, if she had won and this was going on between Iran and Israel, and there was a President Harris that had dropped bombs, bunker busters, I would be absolutely supporting her right now. I'd be saying, yes, finally. You know what? Wow. I can't believe I'm agreeing with her.
The problem with that is there isn't a President Harris, because this was going to happen had it been a President Harris. That's the major conflict, right?
Not necessarily.
No. The war with Ukraine was supposed to be stopped. She wasn't strong enough. Foreign diplomacy. You go back and look at it. She wasn't strong enough on her foreign policy. Oh, the world leaders don't respect her. Iran is going to be aggressive. Israel and the war. Israel, they're never going to get the hostage back because Kamala Harris isn't strong enough to get it back. Like, all of these foreign policy issues that are going on right now were only supposed to happen with President Harris. President Trump ran on the platform of, I'm going to end the Russia war on day one. We're going to get Israel to Trump back. I'm going to bring peace to the Middle East. Those were his exact talking points, which you've been paying attention. This administration, they consistently say one thing and do the other. And this is no different, right? But when I brought it up early in the administration, I was told, oh, this is the mandate. This is what we voted for. Well, shit, you can't go back now 6 months later and say, oh, well, wait a minute. No, keep the same energy that you brought. If this is what you voted for, you got to have all the chaos that comes with it. Why in the hell would you think he would not?
Well, this also goes back to the whole immigration thing, like what's going on in California. And then I guess it was the Secretary of Agriculture went to him and said, hey, this is actually hurting a lot of the farmers in California and throughout the country. And so they're really struggling. And he went, well, then we're going to stop going after these guys if they're working on the farms. No, like for me, if you're going to do this, if you're going to say an illegal immigrant does not belong in this country, then it means an illegal immigrant does not belong in this country. It's not, well, it's an illegal immigrant doesn't belong in this country as long as they're not working in a hotel and cleaning somebody's toilet that nobody else wants to do that job, or in agriculture or whatever. It's that's part of the rule of law, is if they came in illegally, then they need to go out. And, you know, it's to me, it's just black and white on that. Yeah. I mean, and I don't care. And again, it doesn't matter if they're Mexican or Irish. If you're here and you've overstayed your visa, you're not legally in the country, get out and then apply to come back in. So I agree with you in a lot of these ways that Trump was going in, but we both know, we said this before even the election, right? We both said there's the campaign promises.
Yeah.
And then there's what you can do.
Yeah.
And we both said, look, both of these two are saying, I'm going to make sure there's flowers blooming in the winter, and that in the summer, it's always going to be a nice, calm 73 degrees like San Diego. All of the United States, from Maine to Texas, is going to feel like San Diego.
Can we agree that one party took that line, hook, bait, and the center? They took it literal, and the other one understood it as figurative.
I think there are, if we're calling MAGA a party, then yes.
Yes. They took it as a literal.
Because again, I still do not believe that the majority of Republicans are MAGA. But I do think it's a pretty significant. Well, so look at it like this. What have we always said? The really extreme right and the really extreme left, right? And then there's everybody else in the middle. I think
initially we said it was what, 20, 20, and 60, right? Or 10, 10, and 80.
I think it was 10, 10, and 80. So what I'm saying is, of the 50% of Republicans, a good 10 to 20% of that are MAGA, right? I don't think it's that high. I really don't. The people I talk to, they're not MAGA. They voted for Trump. There's a big difference between voting for Trump and being MAGA. To me, MAGA. Okay, maybe our definitions.
I agree.
Okay, let's go with what our definitions are. To me, somebody who's MAGA says basically Trump is the greatest president that we've had since Lincoln, and he didn't lose the 2020 elections. It was absolutely stolen, and January 6th was a toot to the horn, and that everything, and that Biden was full on dementia before he even got in on day one, and now that Trump's back in again, he is going to bring peace to my new empire. And I really don't think it's I don't think it's 20% of Republicans.
Based on that definition, I think 20% is solid.
I'd say 10, but hey, we want to have the guy you were talking about. You have a guy that wants to come on and talk about, and he's African American, and he's a full-on MAGA. Let's talk. Yeah, I'd love to talk to him sometime.
He doesn't believe he's MAGA either. But
really? Oh, okay.
He just he believes he is a traditional conservative.
Okay.
And I'm like, hey, guy, traditional conservatism died a long time ago. Sorry to.
Well, no. So
but
that's not true. Traditional conservatism has not died. Traditional conservatism has just been castrated. and we have stopped. We listen to those few voices that actually make sense. That and a blanket like Krautheimer, he's dead. Who's our black conservative author? 95 years old. Thomas Sowell, yeah. So but he's 95 years old. So at least we don't have a David Hogg that's coming up and it's like the number 2 in the Republican Party. But at the same time, I couldn't tell you who the number 2 in the Republican Party even is. And so you have these guys that I don't think that are the ones that are even labeled as conservatives. I don't mean to call people specifically out, but like David French, who's writes in the New York Times and some of these other guys, I don't feel like they're conservatives, because it really is kind of a, well, yeah, I'm a conservative as long as it makes me money and when I write people buy, and oh, well, this will make me more money to switch over here with the Lincoln Project. Well, then I'm going to go over to Lincoln Project, or well, if I just go along. And so you and I have talked about the analogy of America being a stagecoach, and the American people are on board. The people, the Democrats, the progressives are the horses that just want to go. They want to run. Hey, we just want to go wherever we can. And it's the Republicans or the conservatives who are up pulling the reins and pulling the brakes and, whoa, we need to stay in control or we're going to go off the cliff. I think we've lost the break, which would be the conservatives.
Our stagecoach has been hacked by train robbers. If that's the analogy we're going with, our stagecoach has been taken over by bandits.
The bandits should come up and they done take control.
So when I think of MAGA, right? I mean, your definition is the personification of MAGA, absolutely. But if you're complicit with the policies that are allowing these policies to run roughshod, then you are MAGA. Like, we've had some of our staunchest congressional hawks, our staunchest, like, traditional conservativists agree with Trump in a way where I'm like, how dare you? You spent 20 years building principles on conservatism, and just because it's popular now, you throw all of that out of the window for what?
So, I will give you a perfect example of that I have a problem with. When the Republicans as a party are saying we need to increase the debt ceiling by $5 trillion.
Insane.
I have a problem with that, because I'll tell you right now, if during the Biden administration, the Democrats had said, we want to raise the debt limit, let's say in 2024, last year, before the elections, if this said, we just don't want to have to fight this fight anymore. We just want to raise the debt limit by $5 trillion. I would have been absolutely freaking the F out, going, no, this is insane. Why are we doing this? Now, me being me and trying to be intellectually honest, I say, if the Republicans are doing it, it's insane. Why are you doing this? This is crazy. There is no there.
That is the conservative stance, and not enough conservatives exist in Congress anymore. That's my whole point. That's the
they want the money. Again, it's the money.
So,
okay, let me ask you this, KJ, as a conservative, if you were to say to me, okay, Chaplain, you're so smart, you're going to save the world, what would you do? Easy peasy. I'd say, okay, you're gonna increase the debt limit by $5 trillion. Okay, here's what I want then. I want half a $1 trillion. I want $500 billion of this to go to refineries for oil shale and refineries and to get oil out of Anwar province. Because I want the U.S. at the end, if you're saying this $5 trillion will last us for 10 years, I want, when that 10-year mark hits, I want us to be the number one producer of oil in the world, and not even close. I want us to be able to turn around and say, we are exporting $500 billion in oil every single year. And we are paying off this debt. Yes, we raised it, and we bit the bullet, and that's why we took that $500 billion and we built those refineries in Utah and Colorado and Montana and Wyoming. And you know what? We got Canada we went right up to Montana, and we're drinking their milkshake. Then we drink it up. And then and we built the pipeline from Anwar province down to Genoa. And so we have all that going, and that's what we did. That was how we are paying for it. And when we do this, whoever we sell these leasing fields and whatever, because you're going to have to privatize them, right?
Of course. Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to take that $500 billion. We're going to use the investment of $500 billion, and then eventually, after it's built and it's going, we're going to have the private companies coming to do that. But we are going to write into it that the United States of America gets X% of every drop of oil that comes out of it, right? So there's our investment. Hey, if BP comes in and they go, okay, so you built this refinery, it's producing how many barrels a day?
Mm-hmm.
And you want me to buy it for $50 billion. And a refinery wouldn't cost that much honestly. It's a coal would be somewhere around $5 billion. So let's say $5 billion.
Yep.
So you want us to pay $5 billion, and it's creating X number of barrels, 100,000 barrels a day, or 10,000 barrels, whatever the number is.
Yeah.
And so we will recoup our investment of $5 billion in about 5 years. But we have to give you 25% of those profits in perpetually, in perpetuity.
Yeah.
So that means we're going to make, let's see, $500 million a year pays off our investment in 10 years, but it's extended to 15 years because we have to give 25%. But then after that, we get to keep 75% of everything we make after we've paid it all off. And we have to give, so that $500 million, we still get to keep $375 million a year on something we didn't build.
Yep.
Or however it would work out, right? There are companies that would absolutely do that.
Yeah.
And let's say of that $500 billion, you're saying, okay, I want this number of refineries done. I want Anwar to be drilled. And as part of that, a brand new nuclear power plant costs $10 billion. Okay. So if we're going to do refineries that cost $5 billion and nuclear power plants that cost $10 billion, and we have $500 billion to play with, well, I'm pretty sure we can afford to make 10 new nuclear power plants at no cost, but at cost to the American taxpayer, right? But this is what we're going to do. So we're going to do the power plants we're going to have the refineries for the oil shale and other oil. We're going to basically, if we're going to spend $5 trillion to increase, we are going to literally, and I get it, as Democrats, they say invest, Republicans say it's just spend. In this case, I'm saying invest in refineries, in the drilling machineries, in nuclear power plants. And I'll give you a crazy one that might piss people off on both sides of the aisle, because I say, you know what? We also need massive desalination plants in California because you need water. California needs water. Phoenix needs water. Las Vegas needs water. Reno needs water. Right? The entire Southwest, if it's going to grow, needs desalination plants. And so if you're saying this is all about making America the best place it can be, and there's always trade-offs. Like if you say, like right now, one of the big things is Mike Lee is proposing that a certain percentage of federal land should be opened up for development, right? And sold off. Okay. Like there's give and takes that you can do, But ultimately, we need to do something other than just go, oh, well, President Trump wants it, so we should absolutely get behind it, and that's great. When it's gone against your core principles for the past, well, I would say for the past 20 years, but that's not true. Every time the Republicans are in power, they turn around and go, oh, we're going to spend just like, we're now going to spend like drunk sailors, just like the Democrats did.
Yeah.
And so there's ways to do this that make sense, because even then you're still raising the debt limit by $5 trillion, even if you're spending $500 billion on energy independent. If right now, if you ask the average American and you said, we're going to do a national referendum, should the U.S. spend $500 billion on infrastructure updates for energy to make us energy independent? I'm guessing you would run a positive somewhere around 85%. It'd probably be about 85 to 15. And the 15 would be the hard left environmentalist that would be like, what are you going to do? Oh no, this is going to ruin, right?
Yeah.
And I get it, but there's ways to, and if you want progress, it generally comes, there is a trade-off. No matter what you do in the US, it's not going to be as bad as China and India as far as pollution goes.
Not yet.
So as soon as Greta Thunberg wants to go start complaining in China and India, then maybe I'll start listening to her. Until then, she can just keep going and doing the road show that she is. But there was a nice little detour. Okay, so get back to the war. Okay, let me, because you brought up one thing, and I want to circle back to this real quick, because you said the 2 weeks that everybody, we've heard this before, the 2 weeks.
Yeah, we have.
And it was,
they're weeks
right.
Out from being nuclear capable.
So it's the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, that they did come out with a report just a few weeks ago that said, hey, no kidding, Iran's not letting us in, and they are absolutely breaking the rules. And we really are worried that they're legitimately like not very far away. And so instead of sending in Hans Bricks, oh no, not Hans Bricks, oh, I hate that guy. They've basically done what they always do. We're going to send a very naughty, a very nasty letter to the UN. Okay, now the reason that I say that there's something to a little bit difference between Iraq and Iran here. I've used this analogy a lot for the invasion in Iraq in 2003, which was the weapons of mass destruction, right? The weapons of mass destruction argument, which was this. You have a bank robber that has robbed banks. He's a known bank robber. In past robberies, he has done what they did in the Hugh Jackman Hacker with John Travolta show. What was that? Swordfish? Something like that? Do you remember Halle Berry? All the guys watched it because she exposed her breasts.
Yeah, well, I think it was Swordfish. Was it Swordfish? Right? I know the play. I know the game you're talking about. Yeah,
it's called, right. So in Swordfish, they put explosive vests with ball bearings on all the people, and so if they left, it blew up, right? Okay, so this bank robber has done all those things in the past.
Sure.
And now he's in a bank again, and he's surrounded by the police, and he's communicating. He's saying, I have all these hostages. I have them all wired up. And if anybody comes in, I'm going to blow up the hostages. I'm going to drop the canisters of yellow deadly virus special plague that I was able to make. And this plague will, make the bubonic plague look like nothing. Because you guys know, I've got some friends and I was in jail with some chemists, and I've had some chemistry people in the past. And so as the police, they're going, well, crap, we really have to be careful when we go in. So we have to, maybe when we go in, we've got to be real serious about this, because he has these things. And then you go into the bank, and it turns out he didn't have the hostages wired. He didn't have any virus. He didn't have really anything. Basically, all he had was a 9mm, and nobody was even in there with him. And the 9mm was rusted and was empty, right? So they catch the guy. Were they wrong for treating him like he had the bombs, like he had the virus and all that stuff? Because we had seen all those things already from Saddam. We had seen him use chemical weapons against the Kurds in the north previously, right? That's what he was testing on them. We had been, previously that he'd had these programs going, and everybody acknowledges there was a nuclear program. Okay, it wasn't where we thought it was. It had fallen apart. We didn't know it had fallen apart, but we thought it was still in.
We knew.
Well, there was a lot of debate even during the Clinton years about what Saddam had, right? So, and honestly, there's a lot of I've talked about this with George Sada also, who wrote the book that said that Saddam also moved a lot of his chemical weapons from Iraq into Syria using the Red Crescent because there had been an earthquake. Yep. So I don't think the U.S. was wrong by making the claim that there were weapons of mass destruction, because the other part of that is this. If you go inside, you're sitting inside, KJ, and you're in one of the offices that has no windows and anything, and somebody comes in. Oh, KJ, hey, you got to call the fire department. There's a truck on fire outside. It's a red Toyota. Okay, cool. I'll get him. And as you're dialing, another person comes in. Hey, Sergeant Bradley, there's a truck outside, a red Toyota. Mm-hmm. Got it. Cool, I got it. And then the next one comes in, and 7 different people all come in and say, hey, there's a red Toyota truck outside. And you talk to the fire department. They show up, and then they come inside and they go, are you Sergeant Bradley? Hey, what are you talking about? That was a blue Ford Fiesta.
Yep.
Were you lying? No. Now, did Bush have some people telling him that realistically it was the Ford Fiesta?
Our intel. So,
those other 7 though were Iran, or not Iran. Those other 7s were the UK, Israel, France, Russia, Canada, US, and there was, I think it was Germany. So you have all these other organizations going, yeah, they've got these weapons.
Yeah, of course they are.
Was Bush complicit? I don't know. I don't know if Bush was actually given all the right information.
Let's go back to the bank robber analogy, right?
Sure.
Which is fine, right? So even
I like it. It's a good analogy.
If those hostages were to go outside of the bank, right? They could possibly destroy half a block and a half. I'll give you 3 blocks, right? With those ball bearers. Let's just say that
you got 2 minutes before we're done, so you better wrap it up quick.
Yeah, so they can destroy the block. What President Bush, and by sending in Colin Powell, essentially said was that bank robber has the capability to destroy the city. And if we don't stop him now, it could also destroy the state.
But they thought the virus could. That was the argument, was that the virus could. Because he said, I have these weapons of mass destruction, and biological and chemical.
Yeah.
Do you believe a career criminal who's a career bank robber either? So there you go. Dude, that was a fast hour. Holy cow. We didn't get to talk about Nancy Pelosi outperformed every major fund last year by a huge percentage. She's killing it. She's so smart when it comes to trading stocks.
There's about 28 of them who are just absolute. They're getting 1,000% gains.
It's weird how smart they are.
They are horrible. Anyway, we are out, man. I am going to go have some family time and
go surf, man.
No, hell no. No, won't be doing that.
Go get in the water. The water in Hawaii is awesome. If there's a storm, I'm telling you right now, if there is a storm, go up to the North Shore just to watch the waves come in. It is one of the coolest things you'll ever see.
You got it, man. Same bet
time, all right, brother.
Same bet channel, everybody. Y'all take care. We out.
Out.
Gee, Ray, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right, yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world.
Speech and freedom
Try
of
to
conscience.
take over the world.
And greatest chaplain in the world, Mr.
Try
Lance
to
O'Neill.
take over the world.